Welcome to the Cell Soul Source podcast. This is for service-based women who are unavailable for burnout, ready to consistently sell their life's work and create more money in a business that supports your body, your family, and your divine purpose. I'm an Akashic Records mentor, and I help you serve from capacity and sell from your sovereignty by rewriting what your body believes about power, receiving, money, and being seen, so you can become a prosperous woman, rich in time, energy, magic, and money. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I am super excited today. I have had the pleasure of speaking to Tiffany before, so this is my second opportunity to pick her brains and all her expertise to share it with you. Her name is Tiffany Gilleland. She's an Australian marketing strategist, coach, and service provider with over 14 years' experience in online business and marketing. She's the host of the Business Bravery podcast, where she has honest conversations about visibility, messaging, and sustainable growth with coaches and service providers. Tiffany helps her clients build businesses that actually fit them, so showing up, staying visible, and attracting clients becomes a whole lot easier. Tiffany, I wish I had met you earlier in my career. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Jackie, and thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to dive into everything today. So, yeah.
Amazing. Tiffany, you have a really interesting story about going from being a service provider into coaching and back again. And I really want to dive into that story because I'm guessing there were lots of pivots along the way, and there's always richness and there's always wisdom in those pivots, even though they are messy. So let's start with that. Tell us a little bit about your career as a service provider, what that was, and then how you pivoted into the coaching, first of all.
Yeah, so I started in online marketing in back in 2011, and that makes me sound so old. Um, it's like it's like a grandma veteran of the internet. I remember the
OG.
internet.
Yeah.
And basically I got into that. Obviously, like, I had a marketing background, but when I studied marketing at university, I we were taught everything. Like, the internet was barely a thing. So, like, everything we were learning was 5 years old, so we were all being taught how to work in big business. And, obviously I have the Australian accent, so take big business for with a grain of salt, because obviously it's smaller over here, but still, it was to work in proper, like, marketing firms and businesses over here. So anyway, 2011 rocks around. I'm working for non-profits, government, and that kind of thing. And then I end up, like, being the person in the office who just was like, "Oh, so social media is a thing, and we need somebody to work on it." And I'm like, "Oh, work on it. Don't worry, I'll get this sorted." And so that's kind of how I got into online marketing. And then uh, I've always wanted to have my own business. So then I started a business on the side. And originally, I tried to have that business be in, like, photography or, like, my passion. But I ended up in these groups where people kept asking me for marketing help, and because it would come up in conversation. And so that's how I got into doing services as a business on the side of a day job. Right. So
Mm.
that's where we're at around about 2017. And then through that, I found that a lot of the people who I was helping, like, I wasn't just doing services, I was also consulting and coaching. And I found that my clients who they couldn't, like, you could give people in similar circumstances the same strategy, but they would get entirely different results. And a lot of it came down to mindset and came down to their confidence in themselves or that kind of thing. And so because of that, that led me down the coaching realm. And so I was
Mm.
doing that with a lot of my clients. And then in 2020, I was like, okay, let's start doing this coaching thing. Although I wasn't brave enough to call myself a coach at that time. And that's how I started. And I started, charging a very small amount for that on the side and just testing it out with someone and seeing how it went. But it was a bit more marketing strategy mixed with coaching.
Yeah.
And then as I built my skills on the coaching side and learned more about mindset and just followed my passions, I just built my skills. And so, yeah, that's how I sort of ended up doing two things at once, but
Yeah.
showing the coaching to people on one side of the world and then on another side of the world doing the services, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you pivoted back into services. Is that right?
Yeah. So uh, by then, like you know, between 2020 and 2023, I was kind of doing both services and coaching. But depending on who I was talking to, I'd just sort of tell them, you know, like I would tailor it to the person I was talking to and be like, okay, I'm a
Mm.
coach, or, oh, I do services, and never sort of really brought the two together in a cohesive way. It sort of felt like two sides of my personality or something like that. Then in 2023, I was working with a coach, and she actually said to me, she said, "Oh, I've never seen anybody do services as well as coaching. That's so strange." She was American based and based in Chicago. And yeah, and I sort of just thought, oh, well, maybe I should follow this because, doing the services can definitely wear you out. There's a lot of extra time involved. And when you look at coaching, it's like, oh, I show up for an hour, I help people. It's perhaps not as intensive. And so I tried to follow that road, but I found it a bit unfulfilling for me just because for me, it's me keeping my skills sharp, right? With the marketing, like actually getting in and doing the strategy side and doing the actual services side. And so to me, it's sort of like I like to do both because one's keeping my skills sharp, and then the other one is, passing those skills on to my clients through
Yeah.
the coaching and the
Yeah.
the strategy side. So,
So when you
yeah.
say services, just explain for everyone listening a little bit more detail about what those services are.
Yeah, so that's a great question and definitely interesting because I am a bit of a jack of all trades. Like I mentioned earlier that, I was the one who put my hand up to like work out social media. I often ended up working for like not for profits, and they didn't have big budgets. And so I just ended up being a one person marketing department because I could see the vision. And so I'd like, cool, I'll build the website, I'll do the ads, I'll do this, I'll work it out, I'll do it. And I was also working it out for my own business. So
Mm.
that sort of leads me into someone who's sort of building a small boutique agency. I have managed to narrow it down in recent years. So I do like website design and development, which as I say that's sounds really boring, but what I'm doing is helping people like create their new online identity,
Yeah.
and that's a lot of fun. And then also with that, the social media side, again, that online identity and
Mm.
helping it really showcase and catch up with how they've pivoted their business. And then also with the paid ad side, and that's sort of how I'm kind of finding a through line on that side of things, because I could do lots of things like email
Yeah.
marketing. I have copywriting skills. I can do a lot of stuff, and I hire
Yeah.
contractors to help me and things like that. So yes,
So,
sort of that.
Tiffany, share with
Mm,
us how you eventually found that through line because when I pivoted and when I was in that messy middle, it often feels like you're in a really stormy ocean and it's kind of up and down and you're trying to grab onto some kind of life rope, and it's often really difficult to figure out what that is when you're in the middle of that rough ocean. So can you share with us a little bit of how you found that through line, because there is one,
mm.
but it's often just not obvious at the time.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. Like when you're in the middle of it, it's can be harder to see. I guess it's just with my experience and perhaps with the amount of times that I have pivoted, I kind of have this faith that I will find the through line, but it has been recognizing some of the repeating patterns that come around. So, for example, when I started out and I was doing photography, I sort of moved into helping people with video, and like I was a video bravery coach. And so then there's that little bit of bravery. And then that kind of came back a number of times with different things. And then I started a podcast with bravery. So sort of that's sort of one through line of how I found things. And,
Mm.
this is something that I do with my clients as well, especially with their like websites and things. So many of us are creative and we have so many things going on, and it can be hard to give up one side of things to focus on another side. And I really love finding that through line. So it's partly finding the repeating patterns, and also when I'm talking to clients. So, and I know somebody might be listening going, well, I can't talk to clients to find out their thing. I want to work out my thing. But I'll just give the example of hearing where they're passionate, where they get excited. And so it can be feeling that in yourself. So if you were to like record yourself talking about some topics, you could watch yourself back if you're brave enough, and sort of see where, how your energy changes. You can see how you feel. How do I feel while I'm doing this? And see how the energy changes. And those can be some things to those through lines. And
Yeah.
then if, at the end of the day, it's like it's having the confidence to say, this is my through line, and this is like my umbrella concept, this is how it all works together. And just being brave enough to be like, I'm the leader here, here's what you need to know about me, and here's how it all works together. Yes, it seems like a
Yeah.
lot, but
Yeah.
here's how it works.
I think it's so difficult because when you are multi-passionate and multi-dimensional and you are so experienced, I mean, you've been doing this since 2011. You are now so experienced. You have so many gifts and talents. And when people say, niche down, it's really tricky because you have so much that you can offer.
Yeah.
But once you find that through line, and it often is trial and error, I
Mm,
100% agree with you. I will say to clients, record a voice note to me. And
mm,
when they record it, I will show them, go back to when you said this and when you said that, listen to what
mm,
happened, see what changed, and then dive into that. So if you don't have a mirror in the form of a client, like you say,
mm,
use other mirrors, like you say, record yourself speaking or record yourself video wise, watch what your body does, and it will give you those clues because you will, I mean, you'll hang your hat on something and go, right, this is it. This is me. This is what I'm doing. This is the through line. This is what I want to be known for. But when you move into it, you think, oh no, that doesn't feel like it. So then you go to the next one. So there is a little bit of trial and error. But when you hit on the through line, for me, it felt like home. It just felt like,
mm.
ah, found it.
Yeah.
after after all of those kind of twists and turns, you will know. You will
Mm,
just know. And then you can go,
yeah.
"Oh, this is it." And then you'll find that all of your little strands can somehow feed into this one thing. So,
Mm,
yeah, the whole concept of niching down to, one topic or one thing,
mm,
no, it's almost impossible. Maybe when you're starting out in your first couple of years, maybe, but when you have more experience, it's
mm. Yeah.
it's more difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And mm.
carry on.
Oh no, it's okay. Yeah. Continue.
So when you are in the messy middle,
Mm,
it can be stressful to the body because you don't have a certain outcome. You don't know what this is going to look like. You don't know
mm.
where this is going to land. How do you personally navigate that when you're in it? Because often we see the end result where people go, oh, I was like this and now I'm like that, and this is how I got there. Great. But when you're in it, what are some of the things that you do to be able to navigate that while you're still, navigating normal life things?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so definitely a lot of self-care in through that. So and I don't mean like going to the spa or anything. I mean making sure I get more sleep, or getting enough sleep. Sometimes when like it can be the excitement of the new ideas, and it's like, oh, we're moving into like a new identity, a new version of ourselves, and that excitement can mean that I work later and I stay up later and then I get less sleep, and then that can create anxiety, and so it makes it harder to make decisions. And sort of something we don't talk about is in that transition, it can be harder to make the decisions. Like the words used to come easily. And now all of a sudden, as you're moving into that new version of yourself or that new version of your business, especially as a personal brand, it's just can be hard to make those decisions. And so that anxiety. So it's sleep, lots of movement, water, just all of, I guess, the normal things that you do to look after yourself. But sometimes when you get excited about new ideas, some of those things fall off, and it's just like working on the nutrition and those kinds of things. And if things are getting out of balance, then that also meditation and visualization that can really help to calm things. And also with the visualization, it can help the body to feel like it's already happened. So it doesn't need to be worried about the change, right? Because the body doesn't always like change. And yeah, and journaling and just really sort of being real with myself. And then also I talk about it on the podcast, which is kind of a form of talk therapy.
Hmm. Yeah.
I share things while I'm in it, or or pretty close to after I've gone through it. So yeah, those are
Yeah.
some of the things that I do. Yeah.
I recorded a little reel yesterday talking about this exact thing. We are going through a little challenge at the moment, just a personal thing. And historically, there was a version of me who would have gone straight into panic. I would have not slept. I would have not eaten. I would have worried myself sick. Um, and I was just sharing in this reel. I haven't published it yet, but I do the exact same things. The old version of me would have, completely abandoned myself and just focused on this challenge. Whereas now I double down on the absolute basics. I double
Mm,
down on making sure I'm sleeping well. I double down on making sure I'm eating well so that I can stay open, so that my body can stay open. Exactly what you're saying. So
mm,
before I would have gone into panic, my system would have shut down, and you can't find the clarity that you need.
mm,
So this way your body stays open, you can stay in the kind of problem solving part of your brain. You can stay open to your intuition, those divine downloads. And so that was one of the things that I shared yesterday, because
mm.
people overlook the basics, but there is no point, trying to do anything fancy if you haven't covered those basics. So 100% do that first.
Mm,
And then the other thing I shared in this reel was I allow all possibilities to exist. So
mm,
when I was a worrier and an overthinker, and I used to be crippled with anxiety, um, a lot of that was because I was very resistant to one particular outcome. And as
mm,
soon as I resisted it, and I resisted it pretty vehemently, that signaled to my body that something was wrong. And so it
mm,
spiraled into more anxiety and more worry. So now I allow all possibilities to exist, from the best that I could imagine to better than I could imagine to the worst. All of it is just on the table. So my body isn't getting that signal of, oh, something's wrong. We need to stress out here. Um,
yeah.
takes a lot of practice, not 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 always easy.
Mm,
But as I always say to people, practice on small things that don't have a lot of emotional charge to begin with, so that when you enter a situation like I'm in, you have enough practice, you have enough evidence that it's okay to stay open. We've got this. Um, and so I'm still able to kind of show up for my business and do all the things that I wouldn't have been able to do before this.
mm,
So yeah, thank you for sharing your experience with that as well. Um, and I believe your personal situation is also demanding. How do you navigate that and growing your business? Because I know a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, okay, this is my calling. I'm literally being pulled forward. there is a destiny over my life that I am here to live. I absolutely love serving people. I love what I do. I want to show up for my family. I want to take immaculate care of myself. How do I juggle all of those balls? So how do you navigate that?
Yeah. So this has definitely been a lot of the work that I have had to do because for me, I manage chronic illness and I care for an aging parent with special needs part time. So I do have some demands that are not just my business, and particularly the chronic illness part. When if I'm not careful of those core things that self care, then that's when I will get sick, and then I won't be able to. I'll have a pain flare up, and then I won't be able to work as much. So designing my business and really making it work for me for my strengths and things and around these the my health, which can change a bit from time to time, especially through my cycle and that kind of thing. So yeah, I have a lot of systems in place so that I can work 3-hour days if I have to, if I'm having like a pain flare up, or if I have to move everything. And then, like otherwise I'm kind of working 4 or 5 hours a day roughly, and doing that. Like I have days off, so like Wednesday's a lighter day for me, and like I leave the house, I take mum to the shops, that kind of stuff. So yeah, like and then I take time off on weekends. I have particular days, so it's like Tuesday, Thursdays are client days, Mondays and Fridays are podcast and like my stuff type days, and a lot of batching. And even then, I'm still trying to get it right because things come up and that kind of stuff. Not every website project is the same, so they have different demands sometimes. But yeah, like those are some of the things that I do to help me stay on track and to build a business that sort of fits me. And like I don't have the pressure to have to be visible if I'm having a bad day. Like I have these ways of working, so it's like if I'm having like a bad migraine or something, then I'm like just posting an old image that I've got saved and some of those kinds of things. Yeah, I think that's some of it. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's perfect. It's the whole, you can't really flow without the structure,
Mm,
in order to what's the word? In order to kind of amplify your feminine energy, you need the masculine energy to hold you. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, it's never a work-life balance, I don't think, because sometimes your work will need more of you, sometimes your life will need more from you. But to be able to build something around your lifestyle, and I think this is such a huge movement that's sweeping through the collective at the moment. We were
Mm,
all told to fit in a particular box. Your industry does it this way, so you have to do it that way as well. Again, when you start your career, that's helpful because you have some
mm,
structure, you have some guardrails. It's great. But as you get a little bit more experience, that starts to feel restrictive. It starts to feel claustrophobic. And so I think there's this huge movement of, okay, how do I serve my work, but make it fit my lifestyle? And that's why
mm,
you're seeing all these businesses that work in a bajillion different ways because we all have different lifestyles.
mm,
Rich to you is different from rich to me, but it doesn't mean that yours is right and mine is wrong.
mm,
And it's beautiful to see, and that's where your bravery comes in. That decision where you go, I'm doing it this way. I'm not feeling great, or it's not supporting me, or my health is failing. It's usually some kind of moment that makes you go, okay, this is not working. What can I do to make it work for me this time instead of making it work for everybody else? I remember standing in the clinic and I remember realizing I've spent my entire life serving other people, running every decision that I've ever made through 400 filters. What will my partner think? What will my parents think? What will my patients think? What will my staff think? What will my team think? How will it affect? And at the end of the day, I never made any decisions around what I wanted or what would excite me or what would make me happy. So at the time when I made that decision, it felt really selfish, but
Mm.
I was so unhappy and I was so depleted and I was so unhealthy um that it felt like I didn't have an option. But it did
Yeah.
feel selfish. And it's only now when I look back and I realize it's the best decision I ever made, because now I can serve myself, my business, my family,
Mm.
my mission, all of it, and it all gets to feel good. Um,
Yeah.
so do you remember your moment like that where you just went, I mean, it sounds like you've had many moments where you're just, and again, I want to speak to this. People think a pivot is like a failure of some kind. I really don't think it is. I think it's an evolution. It's a refinement. It's a
Mm.
compounding and a building on what went before. It's not a,
Yeah.
what I was doing was wrong.
Mm.
It's how can I refine this even more? What were some
Yeah.
of those moments for you?
Yeah. So, I definitely had more than one, and this has been an evolution because at one point in my business, like I was able to work, 8-hour days or even 10-hour days, or between a day job and the business kind of thing. But yeah, it was these health challenges that would come up that made it so that yeah, like just repeatedly I would work too much, I would overwork and not look after myself, and then I'd be in situations where, I'd have to take a bunch of time off, and because I was having, a pain flare up, or, like I couldn't really sit at the desk for long time periods, and I realized that, with the help of some health coaches and, nutritionists and things like that, that I just had to get on top of this and that I could prevent it. That was the thing. Like, I grew up with parents who like office work and work was the be all and end all. And that was the model I'd seen. And the messages of like, oh, like you can always work harder. If you're not earning the money, then just work harder. And I really followed that, and it didn't work because there was a number of times where I was like miserable. I was like, if this isn't a sprint and it's a marathon and I'm miserable the whole time and I'm not hanging out with friends and I don't have any hobbies, but I'm still not even making the money to make this worthwhile, something's got to change. And so it's been this thing of having to like build the life I want, even though I don't necessarily have like the money to support it. So it's like show up with that energy and that attitude of, um, what is it? I decided I wanted to have a six-figure business while working 10 hours a week. Like that's my goal. I'm still a bit off from that, obviously, but it's still that kind of attention and energy of what I say yes to and what I say no to. It's like, and if you think about that as the challenge, then it makes a lot of other decisions easier around, okay, so how many services will I offer? And, how do those work and how can I systemize and things like that. And so that's just been a number of the things for me of just like, this has been my dream since I was a kid. I watched my parents, they built a seven-figure income business when I was a kid. They made it look easy. And so mine was just like, I just always wanted to have some kind of business. And yet it just has been so much harder for me
Yeah.
than watching other people. So yeah, that's those have been some of the key moments of like just being miserable, unhappy, and just being sick and tired and not having a balanced life and just yeah.
And I want to ask you, so you've watched your parents build a seven-figure business, working really hard,
Mm.
and now you are building a different kind of business, so still that makes a lot of money, um, but the way you're building it is different. Can
Mm.
you speak to that contrast?
Yeah, this is something that is really I find really fascinating because my parents built a business in the late 80s, early 90s selling computers. And so, that was in the early days of computers before the internet, right? And yeah, like um my dad's approach was still with an employee mindset. So through those years of building that business, they'd open the shop at 10 a.m. because, they were like, we don't want to open early. But he'd be working till 11 o'clock at night, doing all the books and doing this and that. And yeah, so that's what I saw, like something that I was modeled. And now I am trying to build something different. And it was definitely hard at first because, like, that was a model that I saw that was successful. And so, what I needed to do was find some other people out there who have what I want to build and give myself some examples of, like, it does exist.
Mm.
People do have businesses, they run them part time on the side sometimes or whatever. And that has just been kind of this wake up of like, I know my dad was successful doing it this way, but it doesn't work for me. He didn't have my chronic illness issues, so it's like that was fine for him. And then, this is my, like, I'm carving my own path and just building something that works for me. So,
I think that that is what we are really doing,
mm,
because you can make money both ways, but
yeah,
the experience of making that money, the way you feel along the way,
mm,
um, it's not just, well, I'm going to sacrifice myself now and I'm going to have this big payoff at the end. We want to enjoy the process. We want to love what we're building. We want to feel amazing at the same time. And I think that that's the difference. It's not actually the money, it is how we feel while we're creating that money. And I think that's the contrast, because you can make money both ways. I ran myself into the ground and made a lot of money. It just didn't feel good, and I don't want to do that again. But it doesn't. And actually, in my messy middle, I
mm,
chose happiness over money. I chose
mm,
to give the money away, because if that's what it cost me to make money, I didn't want it. So I
yeah,
chose happiness. And then thankfully somebody was put in my path to go, well, why can't you just have both? And I went, oh, let's do that then. And so that's the path that I'm on. How can I create money and
mm,
be happy at the same time?
yeah,
And so I think that's what a lot of us have gone through. And I hear this quote on social media all the time, that building a business is personal development on crack, some people say. And I don't actually believe that's true, because you can make money. I didn't go through any personal development making the money I did in the old way. It
mm,
was only when I decided to feel good while making that money,
mm,
then I started to go on my personal
yeah,
development journey, my spiritual journey, whatever you want to call it. So I
mm,
think it's the energy behind it. It's the, how do I want to feel while I make this money? That's what exposes what's under the hood. That's what
yeah,
exposes all your limiting beliefs, what you were modeled when you were growing up, the programming that's going on that you have no idea is running in the background.
mm,
That's what exposes it. Because if you are still, um, I'm going to use the word content. If you are still content in the old paradigm of, I go to work, I work hard, I swap hours for dollars, and I make a lot of money, I
mm,
don't think that exposes what's under the hood half as much as if you go, do you know what? I'm going to build this around my lifestyle, how I want to live while I'm making that money. Um, and then, boy, does it expose what's going on underneath the hood. Was
definitely.
that your experience?
Definitely. Actually, for me though, I think it was I had one of my first realizations while I still had like a proper 9 to 5 job and, six-figure job. And that was when I didn't feel good earning all the money. And so for me, I've never quite had that time in the business where I've earned like I have had times where I've earned more money, but it has always been at the cost. It's always impacted my health or my my well-being. And so yeah, it happened a bit earlier, but I really take your point about that whole, I want it to feel good. And, in some ways, it's kind of, I'm glad you said that because it makes me feel a little bit better about how hard my experience has been, because it just, yeah, like I've wanted it to feel good, and then sometimes those goalposts change as life changes, and, I'm now caring for a parent, or I'm, looking after chronic illness, managing that. So, yeah, it's just interesting that whole, you know, how does it feel? And it really does show some of those limiting beliefs and that kind of stuff, that process for
Oh,
sure.
I had absolutely no idea that my body believed my entire existence was just to serve no matter what. I had no idea. I had no idea I had such crippling self-doubt, like just no value in myself whatsoever. I had no idea
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
I had no idea the money beliefs that I had.
Mm.
Those were just fascinating to me.
Yeah.
um, some of them are yours from childhood, some of them
Mm.
aren't even yours.
Yeah.
Things like success, what my body associated success was with, what my body associated overflow with. So
Mm.
as fast as I am trying to create overflow, my body's going, nope, we're not having that. Thank you very much. So it's so fascinating when you are willing to, and this is the piece that I love about you, is that you are willing. You're
Mm.
just willing to keep going. You're willing to keep trying different things. You're willing to keep choosing yourself, even when it doesn't look obvious on the outside.
Yeah.
And I think that is the bravest thing that you can do. Um,
Yeah.
and knowing that th- I heard this on something I was listening to last night as well, and they were saying people need what you have. You
Mm.
are one of those real ones, with the real integrity, the real truth, the real experience, the bruised knees from falling on your on your knees all the time. You are one of those real ones. People need what you have,
Mm.
and it's our responsibility to learn how to package that and sell it and get it into the hands of more people. Um, and again, that's what you help people do. They
Mm.
have the
Yeah.
magic, and you are helping them package it and sell it, and also have the identity and the confidence to be able to do that. Yeah,
Mm.
it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely the stuff that I help people with is the stuff that I do for myself. So it's definitely goes both ways. And
Yeah.
yeah, a little bit easier being on the outside helping somebody else through it than being in it yourself. But yeah, but
Oh,
yeah,
it's
still
much
fun.
harder to see
Yeah.
your own stuff than somebody else's when you're
Yeah.
objective, isn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, it's we're also, I believe, getting into this more co-creative space where instead, before it was, I have this thing and I'm the expert and I tell you how to do it. And I think
Oof,
we're
yeah.
moving out of that, and it's now,
Thank
okay,
God.
these are the skills I have. This is the thing that you're struggling with. How can I help you? And it's more
Mm,
walking alongside each other than any kind of, expert
mm.
relationship.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I've been on the other side of that expert relationship, like where I hired the expert, and oh man, it wasn't fun because like everything I was doing to be me, she was telling me, "No, you can't do that." And I'm like, "But this is me. I'm me." And she's like, "No, no, no. That's not good enough. You're undermining your brand. You're doing all the wrong things." And I I spent all this money and I ended up just like getting more and more inside myself and just like not taking any action. I just was like, yep, okay. And like no shade to her. She was doing exactly what what worked for her and what worked for her ideal client. But it's just interesting that you say like that whole walking side by side. That's something I've always aspired to because the one thing that I don't enjoy about coaching is that feeling of like I'm supposed to be the expert and have it all worked out, as opposed to, hey, I'm a couple of steps ahead, and let's go through this, let me share this together. Is just, I don't know, that to me is way more fulfilling than,
Yeah.
no, I am the expert and you will not talk to any other people and you will only listen to me, and what did you hire me for? And just, I don't know. Maybe I'm a terrible one.
Yeah, no,
I don't know.
I just think that that model is not really sustainable.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that's being exposed in the whole coaching industry. Um, and yeah, it's uncomfortable, but it's a good thing that would be exposed. I mean, if we are here to help each other rise, then in my opinion, it should be calling people forward and up and exciting them and reflecting their genius that they can't see yet. I heard this thing the other day, and I've said it so many times because it's just so beautiful. I wish you could see yourself through my eyes. And that's what I think coaching should be. Like, I wish you
Yeah.
could see your beauty and your brilliance and your magnificence the way I can see it. And I will just reflect that to you until you can see it yourself. Um, that to me is what I want from coaching. I don't want somebody to tell me like
Yeah.
what you're doing is bad, what you're doing is wrong, and you're not enough. That's not the vibe for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely doesn't work for me. I'm definitely more a carrot than the stick person. So,
Mm.
yeah, it's like if you give me even just a little bit of positive reinforcement, I can, jump tall buildings in a single bound type deal.
Yeah.
But
We're
yeah.
basically puppies. We're basically puppies.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, gorgeous.
right.
Tiffany, this has been so wonderful. Thank you so much for your honesty. Um, while you navigate things that a lot of women navigate, um, we've got parents upwards, we've got partners sideways, some of us have got children beneath us, animals that are relying on us. While we are trying to literally forge a new way of doing things.
Mm,
Um, and we are the guinea pigs, we are the ones we experiment on. Um, and then we share the little bits of wisdom with those who are, like you say, just a few steps behind us. Hey, I tried this and it worked. I also tried this and it did not work. Take what you want. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely.
it's been amazing. Where can
Yeah.
people find you so that they can make use of your excellent work?
Yeah, so a couple of places to find me. First would be Instagram. That's where I hang out the most. And yeah, at Tiffany G Studios is my Instagram. And then the Business Bravery podcast is, and you can find that on, the major podcast platforms and that kind of thing. So
Brilliant, brilliant. And
yeah.
obviously, we'll leave the links for that below so that you can go and listen to more bravery. Tiffany, this has been wonderful. Thank you so, so much.
Yeah.
And for everybody listening, I look forward to connecting with you on the next podcast. If this episode resonated, make sure you save it and follow for more conversations on burnout, selling, and becoming the woman who is prosperous in her life and business. I'll see you in the next episode.